The Leonia Lions had something to prove. After their last contest against Teaneck, in which they suffered a bruising 8-7 extra inning defeat and left the field with more than a few scars after a couple of bench-clearing brawls, today's opponent was Cliffside Park. Fortunately for Leonia, the game was at home and they wouldn't have to deal with the Cliffside mob that posed as fans. Unfortunately, since that home game ban, Cliffside hadn't lost and climbed into first place. Leonia was up to the challenge. Coach Herb Turkington's team beat first place Cliffside 6-2 in a 9-inning battle. Cliffside had tied the game at 2 in the bottom of the 7th before Leonia touched up starter Tom Crowley for 4 runs, handing Dutch Hilderhoff the victory as he went the distance in striking out 11 and vaulted the Lions back into first place. For its part, Teaneck followed up the scrum against Leonia with a showdown versus Englewood. With Ray Mersch unable to get out of the first inning, Coach Charlie Knapp had to use Big Jim Sloan for 10 innings in the Leonia game when the initial plan was to save him for the tougher Maroon lineup. Englewood had an upcoming contest against league powerhouse Hackensack and their ace Danny Dawson, so Coach Jim Kirkland decided to throw Bob Luskin against the Highwaymen and save Steve Biankowski for the matchup against Dawson. His calculation was that the Maroon Bats would get to a tired Sloan coming off a 10-inning performance, and Luskin was certainly good enough to hold the Teaneck Bats in check. Kirkland certainly turned out to be right about Luskin, as the right-hander went the distance and limited Teaneck to 5 hits while striking out 9. But he certainly underestimated Sloan. Big Jim went the distance again, striking out 9 and giving up only 4 hits and 2 walks in a 2-1 Teaneck win at Winton J. White Stadium in Englewood. The margin of victory was provided by a couple of costly Maroon errors. With 2 runners on in the second inning, Sloan singled to center, and the ball was bobbled by All-State center fielder Ray Steinbacher, allowing Don Snyder to score. Then in the third, catcher Ant Cordero walked, stole second, stole third, and scored when the Englewood catcher dropped the throw on Johnny Mangini's grounder to second. Sloan made the 2 unearned runs stand up and sent Luskin to his 3rd straight defeat after he had suffered 2 extra-inning hard-luck losses himself. The next day, Teaneck was right back at it in a matchup with Cliffside Park. Having just been knocked out of first place by Leonia yesterday, the Cliffside 9 were fired up. With Sloan having pitched back-to-back complete game victories, Knapp had little choice but to rest his ace and try to beat Cliffside with the balance of his staff. He started with Warren Sheets, who responded by loading the bases without recording an out. The same result that starter Ray Mersch had produced before being pulled for Sloan in the Leonia game, Knapp once again had a quick hook and tried Mersch in relief this time. He gave up 3 runs and 3 more in the 5th as Cliffside built a 6-3 lead. When Mersch loaded the bases in the 6th, Knapp reluctantly called on Sloan once again. Big Jim promptly struck out the side to end the threat. But that was all he had left in the tank that day, and Bill Brown finished up for the Highwaymen in a 9-5 loss. In other league action, newcomer Tenafly upset Hackensack by a score of 4-3 as the Comets held back star hurler Danny Dawson in anticipation of that matchup with ace Steve Biankowski of Englewood. But both Hackensack and Englewood paid the price for looking ahead to the marquee matchup, as both suffered losses at the hands of the NNJIL's new additions.